You know that feeling when the house finally goes quiet? Maybe the kids are actually asleep, or you finish that last work email. Or you finally put your phone on the charger. You've been running on adrenaline and caffeine for, probably at least 14 hours, and you think, finally, I can just be. But the moment your head hits the pillow, the midnight auditor walks into the room. She doesn't just bring her notebook, she brings a projector and a stack of receipts, and she starts the replay. She starts with the small stuff, right? The social paper cuts. She reminds you of that joke that you made at lunch that nobody laughed at. Or she replays the 3 seconds of silence after you spoke up in the meeting, and she convinces you that those 3 seconds were actually a collective realization by your peers that you're a fraud. But for us, women who have lived a few chapters, the auditor goes even deeper. She starts auditing your life's trajectory. She says, "Whew, remember when you thought you'd have it all together, all figured out by 35? Look at you. You're still tired. You're still struggling with the same 10 pounds. You're still worried about money." She compares your behind the scenes footage with everyone else's highlight reel. She points to the woman on LinkedIn who just got the promotion, or the mom at school who seems to have a perfectly curated life, and she whispers, "You missed a turn somewhere, didn't you?" If you're new here, I'm Ara, and I talk about self-trust, quiet confidence, transforming your inner critic, and living as your future self right now. The blunt reality is that we have been conditioned to believe that this voice, but it's our conscience. We think that if we stop bullying ourselves, we'll become lazy. We think the shame is what keeps us productive. But let's look at the data. Has shaming yourself at 2 a.m. ever actually made you more productive at 9 a.m.? No, it just makes you more exhausted. It drains the battery that you need to actually do the work. We aren't just dealing with a negative voice. We're not. We are dealing with a deeply ingrained habit of self prosecution. For most of us, we are the only people in our lives who act the witness, the prosecutor, and the judge, and we never give ourselves a defense attorney. We are holding ourselves to standards that we would never ever demand from a friend, a sister, or even a stranger. So why is she so loud? This voice that we hear on a daily basis, because she has been given a permanent seat at the table for decades. And today, we're going to start the process of eviction. Are you ready? To change how this voice sounds, we have to understand where she got her script, right? Because the truth is, your inner critic didn't just appear out of thin air when you turned 35 or 40 or 52 or even 60. She was the ghost of every survival mechanism that you've ever used. So think back to your teens and your 20s. Think back to that version of you that was just trying to find her footing. For many of us, the inner critic was a survival strategy. You realized that the world could be harsh. You realized that people could be judgmental and that mistakes had consequences. So your brain, which is a true genius at survival, developed a plan. It said, if I criticize myself first, and if I do it more harshly than anyone else could, then no one can ever catch me off guard. It was a form of preventative bruising. You bruised yourself so that the world couldn't. There's the good girl legacy. Many of us were raised in a culture that rewarded us for being easy, for being helpers, for being perfect. We learned that our value was tied to our lack of problems. Now you have a messy kitchen, or you miss a deadline, or you're not where you thought you'd be. Yeah, in your career, or you feel lost, uncertain, or behind. Logically, these are normal human experiences. That your nervous system doesn't see them as that. They don't see them as neutral. Your nervous system, what it does is it sees them as danger, because somewhere deep inside, there is still a part of you that believes, if I am not perfect, I am not safe. If I am not holding it all together, I might lose approval. If I am not good, I might lose love, belonging, or worth. And this is where the inner critic steps in. Not because she hates you, because she's trying to protect you. She panics. She says things like, you should have done better. You're falling behind. Other people have it together. Why don't you? You can't let yourself slip, right? She believes that if she can push you hard enough, if she can keep you perfect enough, she can keep you safe. But the critic isn't trying to hurt you, she's trying to prevent rejection. Your inner critic was born in an environment where perfection equaled safety. So when your life looks imperfect, messy home, messy emotions, messy progress, she sounds the alarm. Not because perfection is actually dangerous, but because at one point in your life, perfection felt dangerous, felt like disapproval, felt like withdrawal of love, felt like not being enough. So she learned to stay vigilant, right? Constantly scanning, constantly correcting, constantly trying to pull you back into the version of you that was easiest to accept. But why does this become exhausting in adulthood? Because perfection is not sustainable. It's not. Growth is messy. Healing is messy. Building a new life is tremendously messy because your future self requires you to be bad at things first. It requires you to be a beginner, to make mistakes, to disappoint your own expectations, to not have everything figured out. And every time that happens, the inner critic interprets it as a threat. It's a threat. She says, fix it immediately, hide the mess, don't let anyone see this version of you. That this is the truth your inner critic doesn't know yet. You are no longer that child whose safety depends on being perfect. You're an adult. You are allowed to be complex. You're allowed to evolving. You are allowed to be unfinished. Your worth, it's not fragile. So how you shift from inner critic to inner coach? The goal is not to silence the critic through force. No, it's to help her feel safe enough to step back, to show her that you can handle imperfection, that mistakes don't equal abandonment, that growth, it doesn't equal danger. Your inner critic, your inner coach says, it's okay. We're learning. This is part of becoming who we're meant to be. Isn't that amazing? We don't need to be perfect to be safe. We just need to keep moving forward. The critic demands perfection to guarantee safety. The coach, it builds safety from within. I love that. Then there's the tribal glitch. This is the part that is hard to hear, but essential to understand. Your brain is still operating on 200,000-year-old software. Back in the day, being different or embarrassing yourself meant you might be kicked out of the tribe. And in the wild, being kicked out of that tribe meant you died. So when your critic screams at you for saying something awkward, she actually thinks she is saving your life. She thinks social awkwardness equals death. There is a part of your brain that has not updated in 200,000 years. It doesn't know about modern careers. It doesn't know about social media. It doesn't know about job interviews, YouTube videos, first dates, or speaking up in meetings. It only knows one thing: survive. Now, let's talk about the antidote. If the inner critic is a prosecutor, right, we need to talk about the inner coach. But I want to be very careful here. When I say inner coach, I am not talking about toxic positivity. I'm not talking about standing in front of your bathroom mirror at 6 a.m. and chanting, I am a goddess, while your kitchen is a disaster and your inbox is exploding. In fact, for women our age, that kind of fake it till you make it positivity often feels like another chore. It feels like one more thing we're failing at. An inner coach is not an inner cheerleader. A cheerleader ignores the score of the game and just shouts for you to do your best. A coach, however, is obsessed with the truth. A coach looks at the scoreboard, sees that you're down by 10 points in the fourth quarter, and it doesn't lie to you. They don't say, you're doing great. They say, the strategy we're using isn't working. We need a new play. Here's exactly what we're going to do next. The shift from critic to coach, the shift from judgment to actual assessment. The critic is focused on identity. It says, I am a failure, I am lazy, I am too old. It uses to be verbs because it wants to lock you into a cage of who you are. The coach is focused on activity. It says, I did fail at that task. I felt tired today. I am experiencing a learning curve. Abuse your life is a series of events to be managed, not a series of verdicts on your soul. Think about a professional athlete. If a star player fumbles the ball, does the coach run onto the field and scream, "You've always been a disappointment and your mother was right about you"? Oh my gosh, no, they'd be fired. A professional coach sits your player down with the film and says, "Look at your footwork here. Your balance was off. Next time, keep your eyes on the defender." That is what we are building. We are building a voice that is neutral, observational, and relentless about your growth. A coach knows that shame is the enemy of performance. You can't shame yourself into a version of yourself that you love. It has never worked and it's not going to start working now. We are moving away from the "why am I like this" and moving toward what is the next right move. Let's put this into practice. Let's look at the actual scenarios that make us want to shrink. Because it's one thing to talk about this in theory, and it's another to deal with it when you're standing in your kitchen or sitting in a board meeting, right? Scenario A, the body betrayal, you're getting ready for an event, right? You put on a pair of jeans that fit perfectly 6 months ago, and today they don't. The critic's monologue, you've let yourself go. You have no discipline. People are going to see you and notice how much you've aged. You should just stay home. This voice wants to punish you for the crime of having a human body that changes. But the coach's audit, these pants are too small. That's a data point. My body has been under a lot of stress lately and I haven't been prioritizing movement. I have two choices. I can wear the dress that makes me feel great right now, and tomorrow morning I can look at my schedule and carve out 30 minutes for a walk. Punishing myself tonight won't change the size of the jeans, but it will ruin my night. We're wearing the dress, so let's go. Scenario B, the career mess up. You sent an email with a major typo, or you missed a deadline, or you realized halfway through a presentation that you got a factor on. The critic's monologue, they're going to realize you're a fraud. You've worked so hard to build this reputation and you just trashed it in one afternoon. You're slipping. Maybe you're just not cut out for this level of responsibility anymore. Whew! But the coach is on it. I made a mistake. It's embarrassing, but it's not fatal. High level people make mistakes every single day. The difference is they fix them faster than everyone else. So, step one, I'm going to send a brief correction. Step two, figure out why the system failed so I don't do it again. My value to this company isn't based on one email, it's based on my ability to solve problems, including the ones I create. Scenario C, the parenting guilt. You lost your temper with your kids, or you forgot wacky hair day at school, or you're just too exhausted to be the fun mom tonight. The critic's monologue, you're failing them. They're going to remember this. You're choosing your career, your phone, your rest over them. You are selfish. The coach's audit, I snapped because my nervous system is overwhelmed. Instead of spiraling into guilt, which just makes me more tired, I'm going to apologize to my kids, show them what it looks like to take ownership of a mistake, and then I'm going to go to bed 20 minutes early. I am a human being raising human beings. Perfection isn't the goal, connection is. And I can't connect if I'm busy hating myself. The blood truth. In every one of these scenarios, the critic wants to keep you stuck in the feeling. The coach wants to move you into the doing. The critic wants you to spend the next 3 hours apologizing for your existence. The coach wants you to spend the next 3 minutes fixing the problem. Which one of those women do you want to be? The one who is perpetually paralyzed by your own judgment, or the one who is too busy living her life to care if she's doing it perfectly? I want you to take a second and look at the map of your life. If you are 35, 45, you are in the prime, active years of your existence. You have more wisdom than you did at 20, and you likely have more resources than you will at 80. This is the second act. But here's the blunt truth: your future is not shaped by your potential, it is not shaped by your talent, and it is not shaped by your intentions. Your future is shaped by the voice that you choose to obey. Every decision you make, from whether you apply for that leadership role to whether you set a boundary with a toxic family member, is filtered through one of two lenses. If you listen to the inner critic, your life will naturally begin to shrink. The critic is a preservationist. Her entire goal is to keep you in the known, even if the known is miserable. She will whisper that you should stay in the job that you hate because at least you're good at it. She will tell you not to start that creative project because the market is saturated. Slowly, year by year, your world becomes smaller and smaller until you're living a life that is just a shadow of what you're capable of. But if you listen to the inner coach, you begin to move. not because you're fearless. Let's kill that myth right now. You move because the coach reminds you that uncertainty is the price of admission for a life well lived. The compound interest of self trust. When you choose the coach over the critic, you aren't just solving one problem, you are building self trust. And self trust is the quiet, unshakable knowledge that no matter what happens, no matter if you fail, if you get rejected, or if you make a fool of yourself, you will not abandon yourself. So, for those of you with children, especially daughters, remember this. They are not listening to your advice, they are watching your relationship with yourself. When they see you bully yourself for a mistake, you're giving them permission to do the same to themselves. When they see you coach yourself through a challenge with grace and grit, you are handing your a superpower. This shift changes everything because it changes your internal climate. You stop living in a state of high cortisol survival and started living in a state of high functioning expansion. You aren't fighting yourself anymore. And when you stop fighting yourself, you have so much more energy to fight for the things that actually matter. So, how do we do this? Starting tomorrow morning, right? Because insights are great, but action is what pays the bills. And this won't happen overnight. You are trying to reroute neural pathways that have been firing for 30, 40 plus years. You're literally performing brain surgery with your thoughts. Here is your 3-step override. Step 1, name and tame. The next time you hear that voice say, "You're so stupid for forgetting that," I want you to stop. Physically stop. Say out loud or in your head, "That's the critic talking." Give her a name that carries no power. Maybe the perfectionist or nervous Nancy or Wanda. By naming her, you create a microscopic gap between you and the thought. You are the observer and she is just noise. You don't have to argue with her. You just have to acknowledge that she's in the room. Step 2, don't ask if the thought is true. The critic is a master at finding 5% truth and blowing it up to 100%. If you forgot the birthday, the truth is you just forgot. The critic's going to tell you that you're a terrible person who doesn't care about anyone. Instead, ask, is the thought useful for the person I am becoming? If the thought is just a weight that makes you feel heavy and sluggish, it's not useful. Discard it. Only keep the thoughts that have instructional value. And number 3, this is the bridge statement. Sometimes jumping from "I'm a failure" to "I'm a success" feels like a lie. Your brain will reject it. So we use what I call a bridge statement. Instead of "I am beautiful," when you really don't feel it that day, use "I have a body that works." Instead of "I am a genius," when you messed up, use "I am a person who is capable of learning from this." Instead of "I've got this all figured out," "I'm figuring this out as I go." These are neutral truths. They are undeniable. They give your nervous system a place to rest while you build the strength to be your own coach. We're going to wrap this up here, but I want to leave you with one final thought. Confidence is not the absence of critical thoughts. If you're waiting for the day when the critic disappears completely before you start your real life, you're going to be waiting forever. Confidence is simply the habit of standing with yourself. It's the decision that says, "I might be scared, I might be messy, and I might be late to the party, but I am done being the one who holds myself back." You have spent enough years being your own harsh critic. It hasn't worked. It hasn't made you happier, and it hasn't made you more perfect. It's time to try something radical. It's time to be the voice that moves yourself forward. You don't have to have it all figured out to trust yourself. You just have to decide that you are worth supporting. Go at your own pace, but whatever you do, just keep moving. If this resonated with you, I put an Inner Critic to Inner Coach workbook link in the description below because I know it can help you become the coach that I know you can be and that you want to be. Subscribe if you want to be a part of the community of women who are done playing small, and I'll see you guys in the next video.